Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. You know, taking notes has been something that, well, it's been important for many, many years. Before we even had computers, you know, we had notes, we had notebooks. In grade school, I used to have 5 subject notebooks to take notes in class. The bottom line is, I just remember stuff better when I've taken notes about it, even if I'm never going to refer back to the notes ever again. Now, as time has evolved, and especially me being who I am and the sort of place I sit in this world, you probably would never expect I would ever take notes by hand. And for a long time, I haven't. But not that long ago, as of now, I did start taking notes again by hand. I've known this, it wasn't some new revelation, that it's really a different thought process when you do take notes by hand. And I'm pretty sure it's safe to say, while I'm not a scientist who's done testing on this, I'm pretty sure it's a safe and logical assumption that notes that you've taken by hand are probably that much more likely to be able to be committed to memory more easily. I don't like to take notes by hand, mainly because my handwriting's terrible, as you're going to see in a minute. But the bottom line is, there is a different process when it comes to taking notes by hand. So I was intrigued when I started taking a closer look at the Moleskine notebooks that are designed to work with Evernote. So you can take your notes by hand, and then using the photo note type in Evernote, you can get them into Evernote so that they're preserved permanently. And I thought, okay, this is curious. I wonder how this works. And so for that reason alone, I wanted to get a copy, you know, or get a notebook, a Moleskine notebook, and see. So let's take a look, because there are some important things here that Evernote is sort of terrible about with respect to their documentation. So I'm going to walk you through some really important things that are important to know. A, in terms of how this works. B, in terms of certain features that don't work if you're using an Android. And it took lots of emails back and forth with Evernote support to get to the bottom of this, to the point where the last guy who actually gave me the answer I needed, explaining that certain features don't work with Android, he acknowledged, looking at the history of my dialogue with the other support people, that it was handled terribly. Anyway, Evernote's been one of those companies for a long time that I felt was a little too big to really care. I've never felt they had great customer service. My opinion, you're welcome to disagree. We'd love to get your comments if you do disagree, based on your experience. If you agree, I would love to get your comments below. And certainly if you have questions, please post them. Let's take a look at what the Moleskine notebook looks like and what works and what doesn't. So you're looking at what it looks like from the outside. Of course, let's get my cable out of the way. When you open up the Evernote notebook, what you're going to find is that it comes with all these stickers. They're going to be in the back. I've obviously taken them out. And these stickers are kind of the key to how this works. So what you'll do is you'll take stickers. You can see that there's a home sticker missing from one of my sticker pads here. And I've placed it on this note. You'll also notice that the note is broken up into 2 sections. It's got the main section, and down below it has what's meant to be for private notes. And this is meant to come up later on when I do take the Evernote photo note of this. And then later, if I go to share it, Evernote is supposed to prompt me and ask me if I want to share the whole thing or just the, you know, the non-private portion. At the top right, you'll see there's a checkbox that I've checked off, which is supposed to cause Evernote to add a reminder when I take the photo note with Evernote. So those last 2 things, the reminder and the private section, are things that do not work on the Android. They only work on iOS. Everything else works just fine. So I'm going to walk you through, because you'll want to know where to go in the Evernote app. Another area that wasn't well documented by Evernote, you'll want to know where to go in the Evernote app so that you can configure what it does based on each of these different sticker types. Right? You have 2 different sheets with different types of stickers. And you can define what they mean. Essentially, what you're defining is where the note goes when you take the photo note with Evernote in terms of the notebook itself, and you can have it automatically assign 1 tag. So let's go. I actually have Evernote open already, so let's just go right there. And I'll give it my fingerprint. So we want to go into Settings. And we want to go, and this is the part that's really not intuitive. I don't think you would necessarily expect this, but it's in the camera settings. And then there you'll find Moleskine Notebook. So when you tap on that, here you can see each different sticker type, right? And the symbol kind of lets you know which is which, so you can easily compare what's on in these settings with those two sheets with the stickers that I showed you. And here you can decide. So the only one I've changed so far from the defaults were the home one, where I created a notebook called Moleskine, and I created a tag called Moleskine Notes. That way, anytime I put that home tag or that home sticker on the note, when I take that photo note with Evernote, it's automatically going to recognize that and place it. So let's see exactly what that looks like, because there's one more thing, which this part I'm not clear on whether it's a difference between Android or iOS or not, but the bottom line is I'll show it to you. This way, either way, you're covered. So when I go back out to Evernote, out of the settings, and I go to add a new note, I want to do a camera note. And I'll just raise my phone back up so I can get the whole thing in view. And I'll tap to take the photo. And then don't hit the check mark because that's not going to complete what you need to complete. You'll need to tap on the preview that's down at the bottom left there, because you don't want to save this as a photo. This is the thing I'm not clear on. It might work perfectly for iOS, but for Android at least, I'm guessing, the only way for the sticker even to work is you have to save it as a color document. And when I do, notice what it does. It comes right up there with the Moleskine. It recognizes that I've assigned the Moleskine home note sticker, so it's going to know exactly what to do with it. Let's click Save, and let's see. And I'll name it Moleskine Test. Those of you who already use Evernote know that it by default will pull whatever's on your calendar to assign that as a potential note title. Anyway, you can see that it's got the Moleskine Notes notebook, and you can see that there's been a tag assigned, which of course is Moleskine. And from here, of course, I can assign any and all of the other tags that I would like to. Now, let's take a quick look over at my desktop app in Evernote. And we're going to sync up. So we can see I'm already in my Moleskine Notes notebook. Obviously, you'll need to create the notebooks where you want these things assigned before you go and reassign those tags. Let me get out of here in my mobile app, actually. And it's started the sync now, so now let's sync up. And there it is. So now you can see Moleskine Test. Now, as you can tell, my handwriting is terrible. So in my case, the search isn't going to work so well. But let's test it anyway. Let's say if I type Evernote in the search. Yeah, see, it comes up with nothing. So hopefully your handwriting is better than mine so that you won't have this issue. But if it's not, no worries. You can always do what I will wind up doing, which is going to be, to just manually type in any keywords where I would want this note to be found by, right? So if this were a real note, that's exactly what I would do. That, my friends, is how this works and what the purpose is. So you can have the best of all worlds here. You can take your notes by hand, because a lot of us, I think, agree that the thought process when we take notes that way is much better. I know certain people who swear by, taking notes that way. But this way you also have the digital advantage of having the note preserved permanently, and in cases where your handwriting is even the slightest bit better than mine, you will also be able to take advantage of the search capabilities that Evernote has. Normally Evernote searches, and the search works very well within an image. Now, the only other thing that should be happening on these notes that doesn't happen with the Android, this is what I discovered doesn't work with the Android and only on the iOS, is when I go to share this note, Evernote should prompt me about the private section and whether or not I want that part shared as well, or just the top section. So that's the other thing that doesn't work in Android, that does work in iOS. I think I told you that already, but just in case you forgot that, and the reminder checkbox at the top right also does not work on the Android. So no big deal. You just have to go in and click your own reminder. If not, if you don't like the limitations or the problems that it has with Android, then what you've got is a really cool, kind of expensive notebook in your hands. That, my friends, is all I have for you on the Evernote Moleskine notebooks, what they don't tell you, what you need to know, how to put it to use to the best possible end. As always, I hope you had some fun here and learned something along the way. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.